Yo, what's up, guys? We're back, and it's UFC 307 Fight Week. Alex Pereira once again headlining another UFC pay-per-view, defending his title at 205 pounds, taking on a weird title challenger in Khalil Rountree Jr. that a lot of people feel didn't deserve the opportunity, but nonetheless an extremely dangerous fighter that has more than a puncher's chance to go out there and take the belt from Alex Pereira. So it's a really intriguing main event. Besides that, we have a female 135-pound women's title on the line with Juliana Peña challenging Raquel Pennington. And just a really fun card throughout. You know, I feel like Utah, a lot of weird things happen in Utah, and they have produced some of the most fun UFC cards in recent years. So I'm expecting another very fun, action-packed card to watch. And, man, go to patreon.com/PredictionGuru, get access to some of the bets that I have, because I like quite a few underdogs on this card. I think that this is going to be a good week to bet, make yourself some money. And besides that, we got some bets for Contender Series tonight as well. So go over there, get access to those, and just help support the channel, guys. Help keep going the channel, help keep this content going. I really appreciate over there everyone that's on patreon.com/PredictionGuru. And put a comment down below. Put some likes on this video. Let's try to get some more interaction. I would really appreciate that. And besides that, man, let's get in this first fight of the night, though. We got McGee and Tim Means. And OG fight. Obviously, hardcore fans are well aware of both of these guys. And they know neither is going to be backing down from a fight. So it's going to be a great matchup. Neither fighter's a spring chicken anymore, but they still have that fighting spirit. They're experienced, and they have solid skills. McGee, he's coming in here off of a decision loss to Alex Morono, but he's getting to fight at home in Utah for only the second time in his UFC career. The last time that we saw McGee compete in Utah, he got an upset victory over Dominique Steele, and Tim Means he has to be hungry himself because he needs a win here. He's lost 3 of 4 fights. He got knocked out in the first round of his last fight versus Uros Medic, and both fighters are near the end of their careers, and I think they have to win here to guarantee another fight in the UFC. So it's a must-win spot for both fighters here. McGee, all right boxing. He was competitive on the feet his last fight due to the wrestling threat, but holds his hands low and tries to move his head so he can slip and land boxing combinations. And the issue is just extremely slow at this point. He doesn't have much sting on his punches. And due to that, he normally can exchange with fighters, and guys are able to eat his shots, to give shots. A lot of his volume these days is more punching, kick in the air, and he's just not as dangerous as a striker as he was at a certain stage in his career. And overall, he never has been a dangerous striker, so he's regressed even further than when he wasn't very good in the first place. And McGee, though, man, if he can get that double leg on you, he can put you on your back. He's a wet blanket. He's extremely hard to stand up from under, and you're probably going to spend the entire round on your back. He has okay ground and pound, I would say, but nothing really super dangerous from him on top either. It's more of a control-based style, but one thing you know with McGee is his conditioning is elite, and if he can go out there and take you down and sees that edge, he'll exploit that for 3 rounds. But his wrestling isn't anything special. You know, I feel like Tim Means probably be able to shut it down, but it does give McGee a decent chance in the fight. But Tim Means, you know, he's been a fan favorite for years, action fighter, slick southpaw boxing skills. His Muay Thai is really good on the inside with the knees, with the elbows. And I see him controlling the center in this fight, stalking McGee. Means is the better boxer, so if he can get in a range to exchange, he should be more effective. And yes, to make McGee pay for getting too close, you know, landing knees, land elbows when McGee tries to clinch or shoot in on him. And Means needs to be patient, break down McGee slowly. I think he's going to be a little bit slower in terms of foot speed, but he has a big hand speed advantage. So if he can get McGee to stand still, he's going to be getting the better of a lot of those exchanges. McGee, I kind of expect to move, maybe throw some leg kicks, try to land some counter punch combos, and just try to find the takedown. And I see this fight being kind of slow due to that. Means is going to be pressuring, but I expect he's safe to not overextend or open up too much so he doesn't get clinched. And I could see it being close on the feet because Means gets frozen by the takedown threat a little bit of McGee. But Mean should have the better offense on the feet regardless, though. And if he can keep it standing, I think he can win this fight fairly easily. But, both these guys are vets, and I could just see them respecting each other too much. And they've also been knocked out recently, so that's going to be in their heads, I would imagine. I still think Means will win, probably like 29-28 across all scorecards. And so moving it along to the second fight of the night, we got Carla Esparza and Tecia Pennington fighting each other, Tecia Torres. And this is a rematch, but the last time they fought was 2013, 2014, whenever they had that Ultimate Fighter show. I believe it was only a 2-round fight as well, if I remember correctly. I did go back and watch it, but I can't remember right now 100% if it was 2 or 3 rounds, but pretty sure it was 2 rounds. And Carla won both rounds pretty easily, if you ask me. It was a majority decision, so one judge, I guess, had it 1-1. But I had thought that Carla easily won the first 2 rounds. And it's funny, both these fighters obviously have progressed and gotten better, but they still fight very similar. I feel like the fight is going to play out very similar to how it did the first time. Carla, I feel like she should be getting more respect, man. She is 2-time UFC 115-pound champion. She's coming off a title loss in her last fight. This is her retirement fight, and they're putting her in the second fight of the night. I feel like they should have put her in a more appropriate spot on the card for a legend like that. But Carla is definitely probably the most disrespected female champion of all time, I would say, or at least one of them, because she won the belt, over a decade apart. She was able to regain the title. That shows some longevity, some elite skills, and you look at just her resume, the fighters that she's beaten throughout her career, it's extremely impressive, man. So shout out to Carla Esparza for an amazing career, and she's going to close it out trying to get this win in the rematch, like I just said, against Tecia. And there is some outside factors, obviously, with the retirement for Esparza, and Esparza also hasn't fought in over a year. She had a pregnancy, took time off due to that, got married, and you could tell, obviously, she's moving into that second chapter of her life, but she wants to get this one more fight out of the way, probably end with a better experience than she had against Weili Zhang. And Tecia Pennington, even though she's not saying she's going to retire after this fight, she's in a very similar position to Carla Esparza. I don't really agree with people that are saying, like Esparza's coming in here for a paycheck. Tecia, she's been more active. She's a true fighter that's still in the game. Like, to me, that's a little bit of an oversimplification because Ticia's 35 years old as well. Carla's 37, 35. So both these girls are very old. And you look at Tecia, she recently got married. She recently took time off, had a pregnancy. So they both did the same thing, and they're both kind of moving into the second chapters of their life. But Torres came back, had that fight with Tabitha Ricci where she was competitive. A lot of people thought she won. And now this is her second fight post-pregnancy. So she has that little advantage there. But I still feel like both these girls are in similar positions in their careers, even though one has announced that they're retiring after this fight. And I just feel like Esparza is the better fighter. She's always going to have the huge wrestling and strength advantage when these two girls face off. She has the luxury of having a fairly significant reach advantage. So Torres is going to have to come to her, and when she blitzes in, that's going to give Carla the opportunity to clinch or get the takedown, which she was able to effectively do the first time and has been able to do against almost everyone in the UFC. And I feel like it takes away a lot of Pennington's kicks. She doesn't want to open up with the kicks because she knows that Carla's going to catch the kicks and put her on her back. And it mitigates a lot of the blitzes from Pennington as well, because Tecia knows when she blitzes in, Carla's going to be right there to grab her. So it makes it a lot more of a low volume striking match. And I feel like out of the two girls, Esparza is the one that has improved in the area that they were weaker at more since they last fought. For instance, I see Carla as a little bit of a better striker and better athlete than she was back in 2013, where I feel like Torres is still a very good athlete for the division, but back then I think she was a little more athletic than almost every girl, and now I don't really see that being the case anymore. And I don't think Tisha has really improved her wrestling or really her style whatsoever. I feel like she fights very similar to how she did 10 years ago. And I think that Carla has actually gotten better, but I feel like Carla can compete in the pocket, and I think that Carla's going to mitigate a lot of the blitzes that Torres has with the takedowns. I think that unless Carla's people are right, she's just coming in here for a paycheck and doesn't have a good performance here, looks real lackluster. I just think she's the better fighter than Tisha, and if they match up, she's going to get the win. I think that Tisha's really good. She's one of the better fighters of her generation. She's went in there and she's gotten wins over some solid competition in her own right. But Esparza's already beaten her, and I think that she's just that elite level. You know, Tisha's good, and Carla's a legendary fighter. So I just think Carla is going to come in here and do her thing, get the win the same way. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I don't think it'll be a necessarily fun fight, but it'll be the same way she won the first time, where it'll be some boxing exchanges that are fairly close, and then Tisha getting put on her back or getting clinched up, controlled, and losing the fight due to that. So give me Esparza to get the W and end her career a win. I think that people are kind of doubting her a little bit here unnecessarily, man, because she is someone that's a legend that's been able to show up and perform and beat multiple eras of fighters. I don't think she's just going to show up her last fight ever to get a paycheck and lay an egg. So I'm trusting Carla to come in here and have a good performance. And even though she has the pregnancy and everything like that, I'm still gonna roll with Carla. So give me Carla by decision in that fight. And continuing on, we got OSP versus Ryan Spann. This was a fight that was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago, and I think Ovens got sick after the weight cut or something like that, but obviously the fight didn't go down. But it's a cool matchup. I mean, OSP, he has the most fights in the light heavyweight division in UFC history. He's 15-10 with 11 finishes. So if he finishes Ryan Spann, he will move into second place for the most finishes in division history. And he will be fighting the third Fortis MMA light heavyweight that he's fought. He's already 2-0 against the other two with wins over Alonzo Menefield and Kennedy Nzechukwu. So Spann is going to have to come in here and defend his gym's honor, and he's coming off 3 losses in a row, so it's a do-or-die position for Spann. Spann, he hasn't won since 2022, but this is a step down in competition. He is the fairly big favorite expected to win here, and he's taken on a 41-year-old OSP who, you know, has not been active recently. And obviously we know how OSP fights. He's southpaw. He will switch stance, but whether he's orthodox or southpaw, he's only really throwing the left hand. And he's decent at kind of taking the jab, the lead hook away by parrying a lot. And you'll throw some hard left kicks, counter left hands. He's more active when he switches stances and tries to throw a lot of jabs out there and then the check hook. But I feel like his defense isn't as good from that orthodox stance. So it's give or take. His last fight, though, he had a lot of success from orthodox. He actually got a knockdown from orthodox. But you see Lynn's, OSP, at times he'll kind of just shell up, like take damage. You saw Felipe Lins get OSP out of there due to that. But he's a good striker. It's just he's older and doesn't take damage as well anymore. But he's a good grappler as well. He obviously has that signature Von Prue choke. Good top control, good ground and pound. He has 7 submission wins. And his cardio is good too. His cardio looked really good his last fight. And most of the time when you beat OSP, especially these days, you got to jump on him early. And he's still been effective and been able to prove that he can win decisions in longer fights. But Ryan Spann, good 1-2s. His jab is on point. Double jab into the 2. Good left hook. His left hook is nasty. That's probably his best punch. But he can be inactive. He doesn't really have good footwork. I feel like in this fight he's going to be looking to counter the kicks of OSP. And if he can get a big counter early, he has a good chance to chin OSP and get him out of there. But he is a suspect chin himself. His fight IQ is bad, so he's just someone that you can never really trust, even though he should be better in the stand-up. And Ryan Spann is a dangerous submission grappler also. His wrestling is sloppy, but he can hit some clinch takedowns. And he has had some fights, though, where he shot in and got elbowed to the side of the head and knocked out, but his guillotine is nasty. He has a couple RNCs. I don't know if he can really grapple with OSP. I don't think that's going to be his game plan. I feel like Spann, if he can't get the knockout in the first, it's going to become a 50-50 fight, so I think the value is on OSP. But my prediction is Spann blasts him out of there in round 1, breaks that losing streak, and gets his first win since 2022. But kind of a crapshoot fight. I feel like you can put money on OSP there and feel kind of comfortable regardless, because even if he loses, I think that, it might be worth the risk there with the level of those two guys and where the line is at. But next fight, Cesar Almeida versus Potieria. Seems like a fairly easy fight to predict if Potieria fights the same way that he normally does. Potieria is a good striker. I feel like I underrated his stand-up. He's athletic. He has really fast hands, sharp counters. He seems like he has good instincts, but he slows down. His punch resistance isn't the best, and I feel like he's not the toughest guy. So Cesar Almeida, who I think could be landing leg kicks early and often in this fight, because that is an issue for Potieria, and ripping the body, that'll kind of bring the quit out of Potieria, I think. And Almeida in general just hits hard. He's obviously a former Glory kickboxer. He's durable. He is a little bit wild too. I mean, he got rocked by Roman Kopylov a couple times. But beating Cesar, you're going to want to take him down and control him. And Potieria does have, I believe, some combat sambo background. And maybe he can go down out there and submit Cesar. But if he goes out there with a wrestling game plan and can't finish him early, I think he's definitely going to gas. So I don't know how smart that really will be, unless Eeyore is confident he can get him out of there. Eeyore is a live dog just because I don't think Cesar is very experienced yet. I feel like he definitely has a big gap in his grappling. But this fight, it's kind of tailor-made for him. I feel like he'll probably get the second or third round finish here. So Cesar Almeida, just being the better striker, more durable guy, pressuring in, will probably end up getting Eeyore out of there, I believe. And next fight that we got on the card, we got Austin Hubbard versus Alexander Hernandez. This is a kind of short notice matchup that got added onto the card more recently. Two guys that also train at elevation, so they're going to be able to come in on short notice, you think, theoretically, and have decent gas tanks. I feel like Hernandez's gas tank has definitely gotten better. It's just he's kind of been exposed as not being the greatest fighter. But both these guys, they have losing records in the UFC, but they're vets and they have skills. So it's going to be a fun fight to watch. I think it will end up being a close fight. Austin Hubbard has the more diverse striking, I believe. I think he has better footwork. He's more durable. Hernandez really just tries to throw the 1-2s, body, head, and feint, fake, stutter step his way in and try to kind of hide when he's going to enter and then come in with the big punches. And I just don't know if that's going to be effective with Austin Hubbard. Austin Hubbard usually struggles with guys that pressure heavily into him and keep that boxing like right in his face and try to walk him down and beat him up that way. Whereas Hernandez, maybe early on, he can implement that game plan, but I don't think he's going to be able to do much in the pocket on the inside. Hubbard's going to be landing the check hooks. He's going to be trying to kind of catch Hernandez as he's coming in with these nice little punches and kicks, and I think that he's going to get Hernandez's respect with that, and I think Hernandez is going to settle into like trying to find that 1-2 game. Maybe he'll try to mix in takedowns, but I just don't think he'll be effective with that for 3 rounds. I feel like Hubbard will eventually start to shut that down and maybe even get the better of it, maybe even hit a takedown as well. Just getting outstruck by Damon Jackson for Alexander Hernandez, really bad look. I just feel like Hubbard, he's going to be able to get the job done in that one. Just being a little bit more skillful and tougher mentally. So next fight, we got a really awesome fight. This fight is Marina Rodriguez and Yasmin Lucindo. Marina Rodriguez, obviously, she's been a little bit on a losing skid, and she's older, so this is probably her final chance to stay in that title picture. If she loses this fight, she's going to drop way down in the rankings. She's taking on a very young but extremely impressive Yasmin Lucindo, who hasn't been in the UFC for too long, but has taken the UFC by storm, has looked really excellent, and just got a big win over Karolina Kowalkiewicz. So Lucindo is the favorite. She has the momentum. She's the younger girl by like 15 years. And she's taken on a really tough customer, though, in Marina, who has her back against the wall and needs to win to maintain her spot. So it's just a great matchup. On the feet, it's going to be really interesting because Marina Rodriguez is obviously one of the best Muay Thai strikers in that division. She's going to be throwing the straight punches, trying to catch Lucinda as she's coming in, just be active and aggressive. I think that on the inside, that's where maybe you could see Rodriguez shine because she's just so good there with the knees, with the elbows, and if Lucindo hangs out in that danger zone, maybe she could start to get pieced up a little bit, but Lucindo has really good ability with moving in and out, seeing punches come in, evading shots, returning, really good defense, and then power hooks. And she had a little bit of issues with the straight punches in her debut against Hargui, so Rodriguez does have a chance, I believe, with that, but I think Yasmin is a lot better since that fight. That was a short notice fight as well. And I think that Yasmin hits harder and could rock Rodriguez. But ultimately, I think she's going to win this fight by mixing it up and getting the takedowns. I think she'll be able to hit some body locks. I think she'll be able to do damage and do well on top. Marina is just, she's gotten better with her takedown defense. She's gotten better with her defensive grappling, but she's never really shored up that hole completely. It's still an issue, and I think Yasmin, being the more well-rounded fighter, will exploit that. But this is one of these fights that's to stay away from me, man. Or at least you want to watch like the first round or first few minutes, see what it looks like, and then go with the bet from there. Because Lucindo could really struggle with the striking acumen of Rodriguez potentially. You don't really know exactly how she's going to deal with someone of this level based off the fighters that she's fought previously not being, the same as Rodriguez. So it'll be an interesting one. I think that we're going to learn a lot about Yasmin if she's ready to start competing with the top 5 or not already at this young age. But I'm going to roll with her here because I think that she has the momentum, she has the youth, she has the more well-rounded skills. She's probably going to be more aggressive, the dog, a little hungrier. I don't know exactly where Marina's head's at this point after probably feeling like she got jibbed out of a title shot when she was on her winning streak and now she's losing. She's a little older. It could be like her thinking that she's at the end just grabbing paychecks, but we'll exactly see where Marina's at too. But yeah, man, that's a very interesting matchup there. And closing out the prelims, we got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on Joaquin Buckley, and another very intriguing matchup, new school versus old school. We got 41-year-old Stephen Thompson, who hasn't fought in about a year, taking on Joaquin Buckley, who's been on a roll since dropping down to 170 and looking really, really good. But you look at the competition that Buckley has been fighting, I mean, really low-level competition for the most part. Even the win over Luque or like Ruzaboev, which are decent wins. I mean, we don't really know how good Ruzaboev is, and I think everyone can admit that Luque is kind of on the way out. So this is a much stiffer test for Buckley. I feel like this is the fight to prove that if Buckley has really turned the corner or if those wins were kind of fool's gold wins over the right guys at the right time. But man, I mean, this is just going to come down to if Buckley is a good enough wrestler to put Stephen Thompson on his back or control him against the fence and nullify him, man. Because outside of that, I just don't see how he can win. I mean, obviously, Buckley, big, explosive guy that will throw these big looping hooks. Obviously has that crazy kick KO. And he could catch Stephen Thompson, who we've seen knocked out before, who we've seen drop before, and maybe put him to sleep. But if you look at all the fighters that Stephen Thompson has fought in his career, and for him to only be finished with strikes, I believe, one time when he's facing all these hitters, all the best guys in the world, I mean, for me to kind of believe that Buckley is going to be the guy to put him out cold, I just don't think that. I mean, even though I wouldn't believe it would be frickin' Anthony Pettis either, you know, maybe it'll happen again like that with the weird guy doing it, but I just feel like if this fight stays standing, Thompson has a gigantic advantage. Stephen Thompson still has some of the best footwork in the sport, the fastest feet. He still has excellent boxing combinations off the back foot. He will throw these 2-3 punch combos, cut an angle, and then occasionally he's mixing in a freaking foot to your face at the end of his combinations, and the guy's just an elite striker, high volume, spin kicks. I mean, he just has the full arsenal, and we all know exactly how good he is with that. Buckley, I feel like his striking is good, but a lot of big looping shots exploding in, and I just feel like he's going to struggle to cut the cage off, and he's going to struggle to get on the inside and kind of figure out how to deal with a guy like Stephen Thompson in the striking realm. Buckley has been using a lot of takedowns recently, but you go back, you watch that Rosaboa fight, I mean, he was just giving those takedowns to Buckley. Flying knees, he was throwing, like, step-in knees and just feeding the leg to Buckley, and Thompson isn't going to do that, man. Thompson is going to make Buckley have to work and close the distance for his takedowns and actually get inside effectively and get him to the mat, and I think that's going to be easier said than done for Buckley and a lot harder than a lot of people think. I still think Thompson is viable, and I don't get this line, man. I feel like Thompson is the better skilled fighter. Even if Buckley takes him down, I don't see him doing much damage. I think you'll hold him down and probably ground and pound him a little bit, but I don't think it'll be too damaging. And you have 3 rounds for Thompson to potentially land a finish or get the beat on Buckley's takedowns and start to take over. And I just feel like Thompson has the ability to do that. I think Buckley hasn't really beaten anyone good, and he's going to have to prove to me that he could step up and beat this level guy. I just don't think his wrestling is as good as people are advertising. I see people saying he's going to just take down Thompson easily and win that way, but he's a striker, man, and I feel like his wrestling isn't as good as people are saying. So if he goes out there and could take down Thompson for 3 rounds, he's going to move up some stocks in my book, but if the fight goes how I think it's going to go, and when I'm going to predict, I'm going to say Stephen Thompson gets a dominant decision or a knockout win here over Joaquin Buckley. So give me Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'll actually say he wins via knockout in round 2 or round 3. And first fight on the main card, shit fight to me, Roman Dolidze versus Kevin Holland. I mean, 2 recognizable names. We got a guy that's probably a lot bigger in Dolidze, who's a former 205er taking on a guy that's a former 170, but Holland has that crazy frame, and, you know, he's going to be longer and taller, so the strength advantage and the weight advantage maybe won't really matter unless Dolidze can really get in on him. But I don't have a lot to say about this fight. I feel like Holland should win. I feel like Holland is the way better fighter skills-wise. 10 times the striker. I mean, Dolidze striking to me is pretty bad. Southpaw, just throwing bombs, ugly punches, slow. You know, Holland has way better stand-up for sure. And I think that Holland has the takedown defense to stop the takedowns. I don't think Dolidze has great wrestling. But where Holland could lose this fight is just by messing around and getting held against a fence for three rounds. And Dolidze definitely could do that, make it boring. And Dolidze always has the chance to land submission, you know, if he can get into a good position. But I just feel like Kevin Holland is the way better striker. I think he can get the knockout, or I think he could get the decision. And you got to favor Holland here, I feel like, in this matchup. But it's just a fight where if Holland screws off and has one of those Kevin Holland type performances, Dolidze can maybe steal a really boring decision. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that fight, but I think Holland should win fairly easily. And next fight, Ketlen Vieira versus Kayla Harrison. Interesting fight, fun fight. I feel like this is a much tougher fight than Kayla Harrison's UFC debut, and it might be the hardest fight for her in the division. I mean, Ketlen Vieira is also a judo black belt. She's very strong. She's big for the weight in her own right. She's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. And I think she could, match up fairly well in terms of shutting down the judo. She has 92% takedown defense, trains with Novo and Yao, which you know how good those guys have been for years at defending takedowns. Just take Jose Aldo, for instance, but all the guys and girls that are out of their gym have been really adept with takedown defense. And in the stand-up, it's going to be competitive. Kayla's faster, but she doesn't really hit hard to me. She has decent straight punches, the 1-2s, and she'll blitz in, kind of land that overhand so she could level change off of it. But obviously, if they stay standing, I think Vieira is going to be the better striker and get the better of that. So it's going to come down to me to if Kayla can use her wrestling to get it to the ground, which I ultimately think she probably will be able to do, hit that single leg. But I think it'll be a harder fight than people think, because I think if Kayla gets a takedown, we did see Sarah McMahon mount Ketlen Vieira and land some nice ground and pound. So maybe if she could take her down early with a lot of time to work, could be an easy night and she could get her out quick. But I think Vieira is going to be tuned up and ready for this fight. This is the opportunity of her lifetime. So I see her kind of being able to extend the fight probably a little bit more. And maybe have to drag Harrison to a decision or something. We saw Aspen Ladd take Harrison to a decision, who I think Vieira is better than Aspen Ladd. So yeah, I kind of think Vieira is going to test her a little bit. Vieira might even be able to win some minutes in the fight. Maybe we'll see Harrison have to deal with some adversity. I think that Kayla will look a little bit more human after this fight, where she obviously already has lost and everything like that, but her first UFC fight made her look so dominant, and I think she will look like that against most fighters. But this fight, I think she could not have a stock drop for people that are smart and in the know, but for more casuals that see this fight and maybe it's a dominant win for Kayla, but not as dominant as they expected, they might think that Kayla isn't as good as advertised. But I just think this is a hard matchup. So it's a good fight, good matchmaking, and I think Vieira is a good test for her. But I still think Kayla's going to end up on top, and I'll say Kayla wins a decision, maybe 30-26, 30-27, but there'll be moments for Ketlen in the fight, I think. And the last fight before we get to the title fights, we got Jose Aldo taking on Mario Batista. Awesome fight right here. Two guys that are looking, maybe career best. It's crazy to say that about a guy like Jose Aldo with his age and everything like that, but came back against Jonathan Martinez, looked incredible. And then obviously Mario Batista has been on a long win streak. He just beat Ricky Simone, which was his first ranked opponent that he defeated. And he's been looking solid. He hasn't beaten great competition. This is a gigantic step up. But he's been able to take out the guys in front of him. And he's been able to win pretty dominantly, except for a couple of fights. His fight with Blackshear was close. His fight with Jay Perrin was actually kind of close. But for the most part, Batista's been running through guys. He's gotten some finishes too. And Aldo, obviously, he hasn't been that active lately in terms of MMA, but I think that was overblown. I said it before when he fought Jonathan. He kept his weight down. He was fighting these boxing fights. And then he came back in and looked just the same in his MMA fight. So I don't see any slippage from Aldo. I don't think he's going to slow down at all. And this is another opportunity for Aldo to get a little bit of get back. Just like his last fight where he was back in Rio. He had a couple losses back-to-back in Rio, and he wanted to correct that, give the fans what they wanted. Same thing with Utah, man. Last time he was in Salt Lake City, he fought Merab, and I think he had an injury as well going into that fight. And he stopped every takedown from the now bantamweight champion, but basically got held against the fence for the majority of the fight. It was extremely boring, and he wants to put on a show for the fans this time around in Salt Lake City. And he has a better dance partner to do with Mario Batista. So we'll see if he can give the fans what they want here at Salt Lake City like he did in Brazil. But matchup-wise, you guys are going to have to explain to me, why is Mario Batista the favorite in this fight? I mean, to me, it makes no sense. I get I guess because of the age, and that's it, and because Mario's been on a win streak, but Mario Batista has not fought any really great strikers throughout his whole career or through this win streak, and he's not going to be able to take Aldo down. He's going to have to strike with him and box with him. Batista isn't like an elite kicker. His boxing is okay. I mean, he really relies on his size, being high volume, being fast, and then having the ability to mix it up to open up a stand-up, but kind of a wild striker that leaves openings. I think his body's going to be open. I think that counter punches are going to be available. And I just feel like Aldo's going to shut down the wrestling easily. I think Aldo could take down Batista if he wants, at least take his back. We saw Damon Blackshear out wrestle Batista. We've seen other guys out wrestle him, and I just don't see him being able to control Aldo against the fence or take him down. And if you're telling me that Batista versus Aldo is going to be a 3-round kickboxing match, which is predominantly boxing oriented, I mean, I just feel Aldo should be the favorite, man. I feel like he should win this fight. I don't see a lot of path to victory for Mario. Really don't. I mean, high volume maybe, just jumping on Aldo. But even then, I mean, he's going to have to deal with Aldo throwing back at him. And I don't think he's going to be able to just stay in his face. And I don't think he's going to just hold him against the cage. So I just don't see a lot of path to victory, especially with the takedown threat not being there. This should be Aldo all day. Aldo should get this win, man, and keep going. So give me Jose Aldo in that fight for sure. Co-main event, Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Peña. Fight that these girls have been trying to fight each other for over a decade at this point, so at least they're going to get it done, get it out of the way. Feel like it's one of the least anticipated title fights in a long time, and Raquel Pennington might be the least popular champ the UFC has had, maybe ever. But, Peña, I think the UFC wants her to get the belt back. It sets up big fights, either with Kayla Harrison or Amanda next. And but Peña hasn't fought in over 2 years. She's had injuries, and I just don't know exactly what she's going to look like coming back, man. I mean, I don't think Juliana is ever a girl that's going to come back and fight for a paycheck or anything like that. She's going to give full effort, and she's going to look as good as she can. But just athletically, are we going to see a regression? Have those injuries taken a toll? I mean, we don't really know. But hopefully we see the same Juliana that we saw in the 2 Amanda fights. Because if we do, then I think it'll be an entertaining matchup at least. Both these girls kind of are similar. I mean, they like to... I think Rocky has better boxing, but Peña kind of goes for it more and is willing to let her hands go and throw and be wild. And I think Peña actually has the power advantage. Rocky, she'll throw some nice jabs, 1-2s, but she just doesn't let it go enough. In this fight, if she really opens up and let her hands go, I think she could be effective and it could become a really big war. But, I mean, I think that Raquel's going to look to do the same thing she always does, which is push Julie against the cage, try to use her strength, try to take her down. And Pennington has good takedown offense, bad takedown defense. And she's also been submitted a couple times. So I think that front choke threat from Raquel will be there. But I don't know. I just feel like if they grapple and it becomes a grind fest, grimy, back and forth fight, Juliana will eventually start to have success there too. And I think that when Juliana gets on top, she's going to capitalize more. I think that Juliana just might be a little hungrier, man. I really don't know. I think this fight's very close, 50-50. If Juliana was coming in here with some activity behind her, without these injuries, I would say she should be the favorite, and I'd be a little more confident. Obviously, I like Juliana. I picked her to beat Amanda the first time. I picked her in like almost all her fights, and she's made me quite a bit of money throughout the years. But I'm just not sold on her winning this fight 100%. Like, I'm not super confident like I've been on her in other spots, but ultimately, I still think she's going to win, maybe like close decision and become the champ again. So I'm going to go with Peña, but I want your guys' opinions on this fight. What do you guys think about it? Who do you have? How do you think it's going to go? You think it'll be close? Because I don't have a great read on this one. So I need your guys' help a little bit. So tell me what you think about this co-main event here. And finally, we got the main event. Alex Pereira taking on Khalil Rountree Jr. And obviously, one of the main talking points coming into this fight is Rountree being the opponent. He just recently popped for an anabolic, which was a tainted supplement, though. So he had a short suspension, came back, and he is on a win streak. But you look at the guys he's beaten, like, really beaten no one of substance. And definitely, I feel like even Mirzakhanov maybe could be more like the guy that earned the title shot more. But either way, they gave it to Rountree. And Khalil Rountree's had a knack for knocking out these glory kickboxers, or at least beating them. And we'll see if he could do it again. But this is the guy. Alex Pereira is probably the most popular fighter in the UFC right now. He's been putting on the best performances. And I mean, we all know how this fight's going to go. I see people talking about Rountree getting takedowns. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Pereira is the better wrestler and grappler, honestly. I really do. I think Alex isn't going to take him out either, but I think Alex is actually the better grappler. And as far as striking goes, I think it's a harder fight for Alex because you look at Jamal Hill. I mean, that fight ended quick, but I think Jamal had the proper game plan, southpaw, throwing kicks, hanging on the outside, and then trying to maybe eventually blitz in and catch Alex, because I don't think you're going to beat Alex like with the Jiri Prochazka game plan, man, walking him down, trying to be wild. You got to be tactical, man. You got to be smart if you can't hit the takedown, because if you're just going to walk down Alex and try to land on him, he's so good at manipulating that distance, staying calm, knowing how to slide right out of range, land counters. And you're just putting yourself in way too much danger, man. But that's the conundrum you find yourself in with Alex, because when you don't be aggressive and you're hanging out on the outside, he's picking at you with the leg kicks and kind of just chewing you apart and eventually forces you to take those risks. But Rountree, I mean, the guy's dangerous. The guy's going to be in the first 2 rounds in that crouch southpaw stance. He's going to be looking to explode in with the 3-2s. He's going to be throwing hard kicks. And I feel like Rountree is very, like, he has the same repetitive offense a lot where he's trying to close the gap with 2-3s or 3-2s. He can get a little bit wild with that lead hook over the top, the right hook. But if he connects, he has power. He could put you out cold. And I think he could definitely knock out Alex. I mean, we've seen Alex knocked out by guys with less power than Khalil. And for Khalil, I mean, he's someone that's historically been very durable. He only got finished, I believe, with strikes that one time when he fought Johnny Walker with the elbow. Maybe Iwan Kutilaba finished him too on the ground with those elbows. But either way, like, in terms of standing knockout, I think it was only Johnny Walker. And I do think that Khalil has to get it done in like the first 6-7 minutes, though, because he will slow down. He'll start to leave openings. And I think Pereira is probably going to get the knockout second, third round. I want to give Khalil a chance just because I feel like Alex is fighting so frequently. Eventually, he's going to slip on a banana peel and someone's going to get him. And Khalil does have that knockout chance. Sometimes in Utah, some strange things go down. So, I mean, we've seen weirder things happen. But I just feel like Poatan, he's the better wrestler. He's the better grappler. So it's going to be a stand-up fight. And I just can't pick against anyone or pick anyone against him in a striking battle, honestly. So Poatan's going to be the pick for me, second, third round knockout. I think Khalil, the line should be a little bit closer. He has that threat to KO you, but I think Khalil too, man. I mean, the guy is a good hammer, not a good nail. I think his mental isn't necessarily the strongest. And his cardio is not that good. So I think that if he can't get it done quick, Alex has already fought at elevation in Salt Lake City against Jan Blachowicz. And that fight, it was a 3-round fight with a lot of grappling, and Alex was the fresher guy. So I think his cardio is going to check out more than Khalil's. And I'm going to predict a second-round knockout for Pereira. I think he'll get him out of there with maybe, whatever, with a big shot. And I'm going to go with Alex Pereira in that fight. So that's my main event breakdown. That's the full card breakdown predictions for UFC 307. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. As far as parlay of the week for this card, I'm just going to give you guys a play this week. It's going to be Jose Aldo plus 120. And my most confident pick, I guess I would say Cesar Almeida minus 385. So that would be my most confident pick. So if I give you guys some confident picks, I mean maybe Cesar, maybe Pereira, Kayla Harrison, Jose Aldo. I think Hubbard's a good play too. So those are some plays I think are good. So thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button. Put a comment down below. Patreon.com/PredictionGuru. Check it out. Appreciate everyone, and I'll be back soon.